You ever get that feeling that what someone thinks about you, well, it actually changes how you do things? It's this wild idea, right? That our expectations can literally shape the world and the people around us. Today we're going to dig into the science and the controversy behind that very concept.
It's called the Pygmalion Effect. And yeah, it's named after an old Greek myth about a sculptor, Pygmalion, who carves this statue of a woman. It's so perfect, so beautiful, that he just falls completely in love with it. He wishes it was real, and poof, the statue comes to life. It's a cool story for sure, but could that same kind of magic actually work in the real world?
So here's the bottom line. The theory says that if you expect somebody to be great, they're more likely to be great. And if you expect them to fail, well, you can probably guess the rest. It's this idea of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And for a long time, it was an absolute blockbuster in the world of psychology.
So, where did this all kick off scientifically? Well, the story of its fame really starts with this one landmark experiment. And it all went down in a California elementary school way back in 1968. Okay, so the researchers, a couple of guys named Rosenthal and Jacobson, came up with this brilliantly simple setup. First, they gave all the students an IQ test, but they kept the real scores to themselves. Then, and this is the key part, they picked 20% of the students completely at random. They went to the teachers and said, hey, these specific kids are special. They're intellectual bloomers, and they're about to soar. The teachers had absolutely no idea these kids were chosen by a coin flip, essentially.
So a year goes by, and they test everyone again, and the results were just jaw-dropping. The kids who had been randomly labeled bloomers showed way bigger gains in their IQ scores than everybody else. I mean, this looked like proof. It seemed like a teacher's expectations didn't just matter a little bit. They could literally make students smarter.
Now you can imagine, this finding was a huge deal. The idea that you could boost someone's performance just by believing in them, that was way too powerful to stay locked in a classroom. This thing just exploded into other fields. And I mean, its reach was pretty impressive. You saw it in the military, where Israeli soldiers who were randomly labeled high potential actually performed better. You saw it in the workplace, where a manager's belief could change how an employee learned. Heck, even in nursing homes and therapy, higher expectations from staff led to better results for patients. It really seemed like the Pygmalion effect was everywhere you looked.
For a good while, the Pygmalion story was treated almost like gospel. You know, this simple, powerful way to make things better. But then, other scientists started trying to repeat that famous classroom study, and they started running into some problems. A little crack started to appear in that perfect statue.
And this is the question that started bubbling up. It's the question scientists are supposed to ask, right? Was this revolutionary finding really built on solid ground, or was it just a beautiful story that we all really wanted to believe?
Then came the big critique. An educational psychologist named Robert Thorndike dropped this incredible quote about the study. What he's saying here is that if you find one massive, glaring error, like a clock striking 13, it makes you doubt everything that came before it. He wasn't just nitpicking. He was suggesting the whole study might be broken.
And his criticisms? Oh, they were devastating. Turns out the IQ test they used was pretty flawed. In fact, the average score for one entire classroom was so low it was technically in the range for intellectual disability, which that makes no sense for a regular class. Even worse, nobody else could get the same huge results when they tried to replicate the study, and a closer look showed that any effect from expectations basically vanished once a teacher actually got to know their students for a couple of weeks.
So, let's put it side by side. The original claim was these massive, long-lasting IQ boosts for a bunch of students. But what decades of follow-up research actually found was something much smaller. Tiny, temporary effects for maybe 5 or 10% of students that pretty much disappeared after a few weeks. The giant leap just wasn't there.
So, where does that leave us? Was the whole thing just a myth? Well, not exactly. It's more like the science got a lot smarter, and we started to separate the incredible hype from the subtle reality.
So here's where the science basically lands today. Self-fulfilling prophecies are totally a real thing. Our expectations do influence people, but it's not some magic wand that can pump up someone's IQ. It's more like a gentle nudge. It's a whisper, not the roar everyone first thought it was.
So, let's just nail down our understanding here. The Pygmalion effect is all about the power of external expectations. It's what your boss, your coach, your teacher thinks about you and how that can subtly shape what you do. But that's only half the story.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Meet the Galatea effect. And yep, it's named after the statue from the myth that came to life.
This isn't about what others expect from you. This is about what you expect from yourself. It's all about your own belief in your own ability to get it done.
What's so fascinating is that the same research that was digging into the Pygmalion effect found that you could get the same or even better results just by boosting a person's own self-expectations directly. You could just bypass the teacher or the manager entirely. It turns out our internal beliefs are an incredibly potent force.
Which kind of brings us to our final thought here. The Pygmalion effect is real. It shows us that our belief in other people matters, even if it's just a whisper. But the Galatea effect? Well, it asks a much more personal and maybe a much more powerful question. What happens when we turn all that belief inward? If what others expect from you is a whisper, what kind of a roar can you create with the expectations you hold for yourself?